Okay, today we are going to start by talking about agreement between that clauses and main clauses. And this verb agreement actually works for all noun clauses. We are working in our green supplement book. It comes from Grammar 3 and Beyond. And we are looking at page 19 in the supplement or page 207 in Grammar and Beyond Level 3. When we talk about agreement between your noun clause and your main clause, we're talking about verb agreement or verb disagreement. We're talking about the verb tenses. So we're going to look, this book has it divided into 2 or 3 different types, but we're looking at that clauses with the present tense in the main clause. So we're looking at present tense in the main clause first. And then we'll look at past tense in the main clause. And we will look at all of the options that you can have in the noun clause based on what you have in the main clause. So we're going to look at 3.1 first. And we're going to look at A, B, and C there. It says, when the main clause is in the present tense, use a present form in the that clause to express a fact or general truth. So if you have a present tense verb in your main clause, you can use a present tense verb if your noun clause information is a fact or a truth. This should be in present tense because present tense always means fact or truth. So we're going to look at this sentence as 2 parts. Many Americans feel, or some cultures think, this part we are presenting as a fact. That's why we use the present tense. And then we can look at the second part of the sentence, that nothing is impossible. We are also presenting this as a fact, or that cooperation is very important. And we are presenting this information as a fact. So in this case, when we have present tense and present tense, we're presenting this part, many Americans feel something, or some cultures think something, and that something we are also presenting as a fact. When the main clause is in the present tense, use a past form in the that clause to describe a past event. So we can have a present tense verb in our main clause, but if the action described in the noun clause happened in the past, we want to use a past tense verb. That could be past simple, it could be past progressive, it could be any combination of the past, except probably not the past perfect unless you have a whole situation in your paragraph where we understand the reference for the past perfect. Some historians don't think that early American history influenced American culture. In this case, we're presenting the first part of the sentence. Some historians don't think. We're presenting this as a fact. Historians don't think. And then American history influenced American culture. This action, influence, happened in the past, so we use a past tense verb. In this case, this past action or this past thing is in the past verb tense, but we're talking about the idea or the opinion of historians now, and we're presenting this as a fact, or in this case, a non-fact, because we have the negative. When the main clause is in the present, use a future form in the that clause to describe a future event. I assume, or I think, this one's in the present because we are presenting it as something that is true now, that you are going to do more research. This could be going to, or it could be will. Both forms of the future are acceptable here. And in this case, you are going to do more research tells us that after now. So we have this present tense verb, and we use the future form. Again, the verb tense that you choose in your noun clause depends on the information in the noun clause. It actually is not very connected with the main clause verb. It's slightly connected, but it's not very connected. It depends if you want to present the main clause as something that's happening now or a general fact or truth, and it depends when the noun clause happened or will happen, or if you want to present it as a fact with present tense. Rules 3.2 say we're looking at that clauses with past verbs in your main clause. So past verbs in the main clause. It says, when a main clause is in the past, use a past form in the that clause to describe an event or idea that happened at the same time. 19th century Americans knew that hard work was necessary. You could also say, in 19th century America, hard work was necessary. So we're looking at hard work was necessary at this time. That was a fact at that time. You can debate if it's true now or not. But in this case, this writer wants to present this as a fact in the past. And then also, when did this action happen? Americans knew. Well, it's 19th century Americans, so we've got an adjective here describing Americans. So specific Americans in a specific time, which is in the past. So we need a past verb here, because we're not talking about all Americans always, so we need the past. This past tells us about this first action, Americans knew. This past verb tells us about this fact or truth that was true at the same time in the past. Hard work was necessary. Let's take a look at the next example. My professor noticed that many students were writing about the 19th century. You could add something like yesterday, my professor noticed. So we need this past verb because this action, notice, happened in the past. And then were writing is something that they were doing at the same time. It's also in the past. And writing tells us that it's not finished at the time that the professor noticed. So we've got past progressive. Both of these are in the past because both of these actions happened in the past. When the main clause is in the past, use a present form in the that clause to express a universal truth or fact that applies to the present. I would like to emphasize that it's a universal truth, something that is true always, forever, and ever, and ever. Who discovered that the earth is round and not flat? In this case, this is a question. The action discover happened in the past, so we use the past form of the verb in our main clause. But then when we have our noun clause, what did this person discover? That the earth is round. The earth is round. It is always round. It will always be round. This is a fact. It's fact. It's true in the past, present, and future. This one is a fact that was true then and may or may not be true now. This fact is a fact always. How do you know the difference? Well, some facts change over time, or our view or opinion about the fact change over time, but also it depends on how you want to present the information. Do you want to present it as something that was true then, and this does not tell me about if it is still true today? Or do you want to present it to your reader as something that is true always and is still true now? Let's look at the next example. Scientists discovered that DNA holds the code for life. This action holds is true always. It's true in the past, the present, and the future. It's a truth that is universal, and it never changes. The action discovered happened in the past. If we look at example number 3, when I started living on my own, so we've got this time clause that tells us something in the past, I found out, or I learned, that life is sometimes very hard. So started living is in the past. Found out is also in the past because these two actions happened in the past. This part is in the present because this writer chooses to present this as a fact that is true always. Let's turn the page and look at grammar 3.2 continued. If we look at grammar 3.2 continued, we can see that the next rule is use the past perfect or the past perfect progressive when the event in the that clause happened before the event in the main clause. If you know past perfect or past perfect progressive means before something in the past, this grammar becomes pretty easy to understand. I discovered that she had been copying my history research for years. She had been copying happened before and until the action discover. So we use the past perfect progressive in this case to show that it's before this other main clause verb. I discovered something in the past. Before I discovered that, this person had been copying. That tells me past and before something in the past. And then the ing tells me it was continuing at the time that I discovered it. It was not finished at the time that I discovered it. I heard that she had failed the test. This action, had failed, happens before our main clause, I heard. Someone told me this in the past, so I heard it. And before I heard it, she had failed the test. So in this case, the past perfect and the past perfect progressive show a relationship between two things in our sentence, between the action in our main clause, which happened in the past, and the action in our noun clause, which happened before our main clause verb. Use would or was going to when the event of the that clause happened after the event in the main clause. This is similar to the use of will in our main clause when we have present tense. Will in our noun clause when we have present tense in the main clause. However, if we have our main clause in the past tense, we cannot use will. We cannot use future. We must use the past form of will. This expresses future, but it's future from the past, not future from now. So let's look. I heard that a famous historian would be speaking at the conference. In this case, we could say a famous historian will be speaking, but when we add, maybe he or she will speak next week. But when we add this main clause, I heard, we must use the past form because our story is in the past. I heard, what did I hear? I heard that a famous historian would be speaking. Do we know if this historian spoke at the conference in the past or will speak at the conference next week? No, we don't know. The English grammar does not tell us if this action actually happened or not. It just tells us that at the moment when I heard, this was the future plan. We actually do not know if the historian spoke at the conference, maybe it was last week, or if the historian will speak, maybe at the conference next week. English grammar does not give us that information. It only tells us that future from the moment I heard. It does not tell us if the action happened or not. We discovered that we were going to study 20th century history. The action discover happened in the past, and this were going to is the past form of be going to, which tells us that this was the future plan at the moment when we discovered it. It does not tell us if we completed this plan or if we did not. It only tells us the plan from the moment that we discovered it.